Hey, it's Mr. Shrum, and welcome back to the last section of natural selection. Got some rhymage there, but we left off on genetic diversity. Genetic diversity and genetic variation are very closely related concepts. Genetic variation describes the ability of genes and traits to vary within a species or population. For example, the genes that control an animal's coat color can theoretically exist in multiple allelic forms. And allelic forms means there are different alleles that make that animal's coat a certain color. Each form will express a different variant of the animal's coat color. The possibility of these multiple allelic forms of a gene is called genetic variation. Genetic diversity refers to the amount of genetic variation that actually exists within a species. Genetic diversity is a predictor of a species' ability to adapt to a changing environment. Species that are genetically diverse have a variety of alleles for each inherited trait. The varieties of apples that exist are an indication of the fruit's genetic diversity. I mean, these are all apples, but they all look different and they have different aspects. Now, the benefits of genetic diversity, it's a very important aspect of species survival. A changing environment can become hostile to an organism possessing a particular form of a trait. A population that's not genetically diverse may find itself without members that possess an adaptation to survive. These populations will then go extinct. Different populations of the same species can have a different distribution of genes for a particular trait. This difference may occur because a genetic mutation may appear in a population in one region, but not in another. At times, different environmental conditions can lead to a variation in traits among different populations. Let's study a case to better understand this. So I forgot to read the caption on this picture, but giraffes with genes for long necks are better adapted to survive because they can eat leaves from the tops of trees. So that gives them a little bit of an advantage in the region. So we're going to look at this study to better understand this scenario. A species of rock pocket, get that, a rock pocket mouse is found in the Sonoran Desert in the southwestern United States. The region is mostly covered with brown, sandy soil, but several areas are covered with black volcanic rock. Biologists discovered that pocket mice that live in the sandy environment tend to be light brown. Their coloring helps them blend in with the environment, and pocket mice that live among the region's black volcanic rock tend to have a black coating, and that helps them blend in as well. But that is a black color mutation. Both mice are the same species, but the populations have different traits. And these adaptations wouldn't be possible if genetic variation didn't exist. Now let's discuss some factors that increase genetic diversity. Sexual reproduction enables genes to combine in different combinations. Genetic mutations may cause genes to express themselves differently. If the mutation is inheritable, it'll pass on to successive generations if it works well. Some species migrate from place to place, and that increases their chance of mating with an unrelated mate. So if species from different regions migrate to another area, they could mate with some organism from a different region, and that could encourage genetic diversity as well. Population size. A high population size increases the chances of an organism mating with an unrelated mate. So diversity of genes combining, that encourages diversity. And geneticists have found that some colors of the ornamental carp fish are a result of genetic mutation. So you see how some of them are orange, some of them are black and orange, light orange or yellow and white, and then white with darker orange. Endangered species. Biologists consider a species endangered when it faces extinction because of declining numbers in the wild. The cause for its declining numbers is usually an unfavorable change in its biotic or abiotic environment. Let's examine some of the factors that contribute to a species becoming endangered. Sneak peek or a pro tip, humans have a lot to do with it a lot of the time. So here's a cheetah. They're known to have poor genetic diversity, which makes it difficult for them to adapt to changing environments or conditions. So here we go. Low genetic diversity. When a species has low genetic diversity, there's a higher risk that it won't be able to adapt when the environment changes. If inbreeding occurs, a negative trait from both parents could become more common. Negative traits are especially a risk if the organism is an endangered species, which already has low populations. So, for example, even though koalas aren't currently classified as endangered, recent studies have shown that they have low genetic diversity, and that could lower their chances for long-term survival. So perhaps they're not endangered now, but they are very vulnerable because their genetic diversity is low. Habitat destruction. Human activities destroy habitats and contribute to species becoming endangered. Agriculture, urban expansion, logging, grazing, mining, and construction of dams all cause habitat destruction. These activities reduce the quality and the extent of living space for species. They also disrupt the well-established survival practices of a species, making it difficult for the species to reproduce. You know, you hear about this all the time. Salmon are dwindling. Other species, rainforests, you know, they clear all these very diverse plants and animals just to make room for cash crops, or it just lowers the genetic diversity in the region, and that lowers the overall survival rate of the region as well. So it's just not good at all. Habitat fragmentation. Like habitat destruction, human development, such as the construction of roads, canals, and dikes, can often fragment the natural habitat of a species and act as a barrier to free movement. Fragmentation causes changes to a habitat which can disrupt the living conditions of a species. Small populations of a species can become isolated. It may become impossible for organisms to migrate from one area to another. These populations can then suffer a loss in genetic diversity and face a greater rise of extinction. So a fairly recent news story I saw, I believe New Mexico or Utah. At any rate, there was a road where lots of wildlife would get hit, and it would cause car crashes. And this road divides this habitat, right? Where these animals used to cross all the time. You know, they migrated or moved to a different area. And then they built this road. And when the animals tried to do their normal business, they would get hit. And it would cause accidents for humans as well. So it was not good for anybody. Animals were getting slaughtered and humans were getting injured as well. So they built this bridge for wildlife, and they made it look as natural as possible. But it went over the road, and they could cross over the road without fear of getting hit by cars. So that was a cool implementation by a state, and it lowered the rate of car crashes in the region. And the animals were able to, live in their habitat without much disturbance. So that's cool. Humans can do good in the world, and I think we should, remember that not all human activity has to be destructive. Pollution can directly cause death or sickness by poisoning organisms or by causing oxygen levels to fall. Pollution can also destroy habitats and cause the death of other organisms on which the species depends for food or other essential life functions. So another case of, if you disturb one part of an ecological region, that reverberates. It causes other disturbances as well. If you kill one animal or reduce the numbers of this animal, another animal fed on those, and now you've taken away their food supply, and now they're going to go under as well. And then maybe they were the food supply of someone else, and each organism depends on each other in this delicate balance. And if you disturb that just because you want to, make more money, or you can't afford to responsibly get rid of your industrial waste, and you just dump it into a river or the ocean, just laziness or carelessness, greed. Yeah, you're hurting the environment, and you will end up hurting yourself as well. It's so disturbing. Invasive species. Now, invasive species breed and spread quickly in the new environment or habitat that they enter, mostly because they don't have any predators. They can harm local species through predation, competition, and alteration of the local habitat. So, for example, dense mats of invasive water hyacinths. Let me read that aloud.
Hyacinths crowd out
Yeah,
other local
hyacinths.
aquatic plant species.
So these guys right here, they will grow, and they're sucking the resources from the local plant species, and the local plant species aren't able to survive like they used to. It's the way big corporate chains move into smaller towns, and then they take away the resources and money from the smaller local mom and pop shops. Yeah, so shop local, help your community, stay away from those big chains. It's like that, but environmentally speaking, that's what's happening. Exploitation. Oh, well, yeah, we all know what exploitation is. Humans depend on wildlife and plants for food and shelter. Overuse of these species results in exploitation. If you take too many organisms from the wild, that depletes the population. For example, overfishing of the Atlantic cod off the coast of Newfoundland has led to the species becoming almost extinct. Additionally, if one species is affected, it may affect other species that depend on it. So, much like the pollution aspect, if you disturb one species, chances are you're going to disturb more than just that species. So if you're overproducing, over-consuming something, that can upset the delicate balance that has been set. And that's it. So to end on not a high note, it's a sad note about endangered species and habitat destruction, fragmentation, pollution, exploitation. But these are real issues that we need to talk about if we're gonna, have a sustainable society. We have to take care of our environment because it takes care of us as well. And if you disturb the environment, what do you think is going to happen to humans? It won't end very well. And we've seen how human civilizations have collapsed in the past. And a lot of the cases have been they overused resources in their regions. They were too forceful and they toxified their own environment. And they had to move. It happened in the Fertile Crescent, in the Middle East, Easter Island as well, to check that out. But yeah, I encourage you guys to look at that and tell me what you learned. But until next time, have a good one. And let me know if you have any questions through Canvas. All right. See you guys later. Bye.